Hey guys, welcome to Conquering cEDH. I'm Joseph, also known as Brother on the cEDH discords that I frequent. I'm excited to be bringing you guys videos about becoming a better cEDH player. I'll be explaining some rules of thumb, mistakes that I frequently see, and all the little tips and tricks of becoming better at the game. If that's something you like, subscribe, leave some feedback. I know it's my first video, and be on the lookout for future videos. Tonight, we have me on Rocco, Joey on Tymna Kraum, Simon on Breya, Dylan on Ardenn Kraum. Let's get it. Dylan's gonna start us off with the wooded foothills. He's gonna fetch a volcanic island and then play a skull clamp and pass. Now, knowing that Dylan has skull clamp early, it's gonna make my wirewood symbiote plays very tough. So Rocco essentially really relies on symbiote. So I'm gonna be very careful here, probably not to tutor it or hopefully see the clamp go away. I'm going to play a Botanical Sanctum, play a Wild Growth, and pass. Joey's going to drop a Cataxian Probe, looking at Dylan's hand. He's going to draw a card. He's going to play Mox Diamond. He's going to play Verdant Catacombs, and then play Ragavan, and then pass. Simon's going to play a Mardu Triome, and pass. Dylan's going to play a Marsh Flats, searching for a Tundra, and then pass. I'm going to play a Verdant Catacomb, get a Taiga, play a Finhorn Elf, and then play Blind Obedience and pass the turn. So the thought here with Blind Obedience is if my opponents want to go for Dockside, well, their treasure is going to come in tapped. Then it's going to allow me to play a Dockside of my own and then just go crazy and possibly just go into a combo. So Blind Obedience definitely is here to slow down my opponents and just to supercharge my Dockside. Joey's going to draw and play his Tymna. He's going to proceed to swing Ragavan at Simon, revealing a Mystic Remora. Post-combat is going to trigger Tymna, draw a card, and pass the turn. Simon's going to draw, play Battlefield Forge, and play a tapped Talisman. So right around here is where the crew notices that Simon is not playing with proxies, playing with whatever he has. Sometimes this happens. He's going to move to combat and then equip the Skull Clamp to Ragavan, drawing 2 cards in the game where people are just using the cards they have and don't have duels. Doesn't mean that Simon is not a good player, that Simon's not going to win. But usually when you see pain lands in a 4-color deck, things get questionable. Dylan's going to play an Otawara and then cast Ardenn. Dylan's going to move to combat and then trigger Ardenn and equip Skull Clamp to Ragavan and draw 2 cards. My boy Dylan has his engine online, his Ardenn and Skull Clamp. So we're going to have to do something about this or else he's going to start taking away the game with this. You're going to see I have a Llanowar Elves next, which is not looking good at all. Dylan's going to play a tapped Mox Opal and pass the turn. I'll draw. I'm going to cast Rocco for X equals 1, which will get me Wirewood Symbiote. So the reason I'm fetching a Wirewood Symbiote here is because I have 3 opponents who play Drannith Magistrate. Drannith Magistrate is a big problem for Rocco. So normally a play would be to go Ranger Captain into Wirewood, but because we're kind of short on that, we don't have 6 mana turn 3 here, we're just gonna go for 1 and just call it. So Dylan does have a Skull Clamp on board. I thought, well, if I don't have to worry about Magistrate if Rocco is out of the command zone and in my hand. This turns out not to be correct, not the correct play. I probably could have just hauled off because he will sack my Wirewood with Skull Clamp, and I just basically wasted it. Not a good play. Joey will draw. He'll move to combat. He'll swing Tymna at Simon. Joey will draw. He'll play a Marsh Flats. he'll play a tapped Jewel Lotus, and he'll play a tapped Ledger Shredder. Simon will draw. He'll play a City of Brass. He'll play a Rhystic Study. He'll cast Imperial Seal. Dylan will respond with a Mental Misstep. Ledger Shredder will trigger. Imperial Seal will be countered. Dylan will draw. He'll go to combat and equip Skull Clamp to Wirewood Symbiote. I'll activate Wirewood, bouncing Rocco, and untapping Finhorn Elves. Main phase 2, Dylan will cast Red Elemental Blast targeting Rhystic Study and paying the 1. Dylan will cast Soul Ring. Ledger Shredder will trigger. And Dylan will pass. I draw. Cast Finale Devastation for 2. Joey will respond with an Opposition Agent. I will crack my Taiga to cast Thunderclap, targeting the Opposition Agent. Ledger Shredder will trigger in response. Conniving 1. Dockside will enter the battlefield and create 6 treasure tokens. With the 6 treasure tokens, I'm gonna cast Rocco. Rocco's gonna resolve. ETB is gonna resolve. We're gonna get Ranger Captain of Eos. Ranger Captain of Eos ETB will add Esper Sentinel to our hand. Simon will draw. Simon will play a Flooded Strand. Crack Flood Strand for Volcanic Island. Simon will move to combat and swing Tymna at Simon and Ledger Shredder at Brother. Post combat, Tymna will trigger, drawing Simon 2 cards. Joey will cast a Kraum. Joey will cast a Mystic Remora. Ledger Shredder will trigger once again. Simon draws. Simon plays a Godless Shrine. Simon casts Breya. Breya's ETB enters with the tapped Thopter token, and Simon will pass the turn. Dylan draws. Dylan moves to combat, activating Ardenn. Ardenn will equip Skull Clamp to Brother's Finhorn Elves. Dylan will proceed to draw 2 cards. Dylan will cast Mox Diamond, discarding Jumpstone Caverns. Dylan will play a Steam Vents. Dylan casts Wheel of Fortune. Joey will have 3 triggers, a Mystic Remora trigger, a Kraum trigger, and a Ledger Shredder trigger. Joey will cast Swan Song. Dylan will cast Force of Negation. Mystic Remora will trigger. Ledger Shredder will trigger. Brother moves to combat and swings at Joey for 7. Brother draws. Brother will cast Esper Sentinel. Joey draws. Joey plays a Tundra. Joey moves to combat and swings Kraum at Brother and Tymna at Simon. Post combat, Tymna will trigger and Joey will draw 2 cards. Joey casts a Mana Crypt. Joey casts a Rhystic Study. Ledger Shredder will trigger, connive, and Joey will pass the turn. Simon draws. Simon plays a Mana Confluence. Simon plays a tapped Ashnod's Altar. Mystic Remora triggers. Esper Sentinel triggers. Simon passes the turn. Dylan draws. Dylan moves to combat. Dylan activates Ardenn, equipping Skull Clamp to Esper Sentinel. Dylan draws 2 cards. Dylan casts a Ragavan. Rhystic Study triggers. Dylan does not pay and Joey draws a card. Dylan casts a Windfall. Mystic Remora triggers. Kraum triggers. Rhystic Study triggers. And Ledger Shredder triggers on the stack. Joey casts a Force of Negation. Simon casts Counterspell. Rhystic Study triggers. Mystic Remora triggers. Simon will pay the 1. Counterspell will resolve and counter Pact of Negation. Joey casts Tainted Pact. Ledger Shredder will trigger. Brother will respond by sacking Ranger Captain of Eos. Joey will cast Snapback targeting Breya. Simon will sack Breya to the Ashnod's Altar, returning Breya to the command zone. Joey will reveal a Vampiric Tutor. The stack will resolve, and with Windfall as the last card on the stack, Brother will cast Endurance. With Endurance's Evoke on top of its targeting ability, Endurance will hit the grave and then target itself and the rest of the cards in the graveyard and shuffle them to the bottom of Brother's deck. Dylan will draw a card off Ristic Study. The players will discard their hands and draw 5 cards. Dylan will continue and cast Stoneforge Mystic. Ristic Study will trigger. Joey will draw a card. Dylan will play a Reality Chip. Joey will draw a card. Dylan will play Ethereum Sculptor. Joey will draw a card. I hope it's pretty clear now that Blue Farm just has plenty of resources to just keep on drawing cards. Brother will cast Lenoreals. Ristic Study will trigger, and Joey will draw a card. Brother will play a Guy's Cradle. Brother will cycle a Boseiju, targeting Ristic Study. Brother will play a Mana Crypt. Mystic Remora will trigger. Kraum will trigger. Ledger Shredder will trigger. Brother will cast a Chrome Mox. Concerned with giving Brother any more red mana, Joey will cast Spell Pierce, targeting Chrome Mox. Brother will cast Professional Facebreaker. Brother will swing 3 at Joey and 1 at Dylan to create 2 treasures. Dylan will draw. Joey will swing the Shredder at Brother and swing the Kraum at Dylan. Main phase 2, triggering Tymna and drawing 2 cards. Dylan will play Ranger Captain. Dylan will activate Ranger Captain. Dylan will search for Sarah Ascendant. Joey will sack the Ranger Captain. Trigger Professional Facebreaker in response to the Ranger Captain, a Lotus Petal, and then revealing a Veil of Summer. Joey will play an Underworld Breach. Joey will play a Lion's Eye Diamond, and then Joey will reveal a Wishclaw Talisman. While the Wishclaw will enter the battlefield tapped, there is a Tainted Pack in the grave that Joey can use to tutor up Demonic Tutor and get Brain Freeze, and just to win the game from there. What a beast of a performance from Joey. Joey just showing how strong Blue Farm is with all its engines, and really highlighting the fact of tragedy of the commons in Magic. No one really wants to get rid of Tymna, really wants to get rid of Ristic Study and whatnot. It's one of those things where it's like, it's not a combo piece, so sometimes you want to hold up removal, counter spells for other stuff. And so things like Ristic Study, things like Tymna, they just take away the game. So if it's anything to learn, if you have the capability, if you have the social skills, get the table to get rid of those cards. The Tymnas, the Ristic Studies. Understand that Blue Farm is really good at what it does, and to really start pressuring it. The deck is in black, it does play ad nauseam, so get it going. Do what you gotta do. I'm Joseph, or Brother, from Conquering cEDH. Peace out.